Happy Legal Tampering Day, guys. Hello and welcome to the Irish NFL Show. My name is Brennan. I'm joined tonight by Rigden and Ciaran Boyle to break down the avalanche of news which is coming at us today, as 2 days before the league new year actually starts on Wednesday. We have one of the most beautiful little niche areas of NFL fandom, as teams can actually talk to each other in this legal tampering period, and deals which aren't technically done are pretty much done. And we can talk about so much news happening as the NFL's version of the transfer market opens up. Our show tonight is brought to you in association with QuinnBet. I want to flag right here, right now, that we will be doing this live Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night, at the very least this week, to break it down, because this week is usually chock full of news that really changes the way that we look at the NFL over the course of the next coming season. And Craig, I'm going to go straight in with you first, because some breaking news: Tua Tagovailoa, who we found out this morning we knew was not going to be a Miami Dolphin, which was expected news, even though it did mean that the Dolphins had to chew up $99 million in dead cap space. For just as a comparison in terms of the amount of money that is, the entire roster of the Miami Marlins baseball team cost $67 million for the year. They're one of the lesser paid MLB teams. But you get the point. It's a lot of chewed up money. But he's only been a free agent for a few hours, and he's found a nice landing spot as an Atlanta Falcon.
That went really quickly as well, didn't it? Like, the Falcon tie was there within a few minutes of the release being officially announced by the Dolphins this morning, despite the fact that we knew that it was in the offing. But yeah, makes perfect sense. You tie a left-handed quarterback with another left-handed quarterback under new head coach Kevin Stefanski, who, you know, a lot of people still look at Stefanski as being a bit of a quarterback whisperer in a way, and Tua could quite happily go there and look at potentially Stefanski giving him another new lease of life that he was unable to have at the Dolphins. So yeah, a kind of a blockbuster one that's moved very, very, very quickly on a day that's seen everything, I think.
Pretty much everything. Ciaran, let's throw it over to you in terms of this Tua move before we talk about other things that are happening in Green Bay South, or as it's also known, Miami, because we could talk about the increasing links between those two franchises. But for this move for Tua, look, I mean, we saw this a couple of years ago, Russell Wilson, when he left Denver, and there's you know, it took a bit of time before he eventually landed, and so we decided to pay him the sort of league minimum. The Falcons are very much jumping on this quickly. I don't know if there's a sense that they actually see something in Tua, or this is just a really good backup plan for Penix, because that quarterback situation isn't exactly, you know, cut and dry. I'll be interested to see how that will actually land in Atlanta by the time he gets in there, considering they already had a weird quarterback dynamic anyway with when Kirk Cousins and Penix were battling it out.
Yeah, did Terry Fontenot do this deal? Because this just reeks of his handiwork. It's weird. I mean, now we have two left-handers in Atlanta. I think. I mean, listen, bargain deal. It almost seems like a great fit for him. But again, you know, it seems like the situation in Atlanta is you got two quarterbacks. You don't really have one. I mean, you can see next year or this year, even in 26, you can see the two of them flip-flopping. I mean, it's a good deal for Tua because he stays in the league. I mean, you know, getting on the league minimum, but I mean, is it really going to inspire confidence in you to have Penix or Tua on the bench or vice versa? I mean, it just seems like a good fit for him, but it's not really inspiring a lot of kind of excitement on my end, because it's, you know, it's almost like a typical Falcons move if you ask me. But I mean, good for him. I mean, he stays in the league, he stays active, he'll have another chance to redeem himself. Dolphins said beat it, so we'll see what he can do in ATL.
That one has just come at us, by the way, as we're recording this at 9 o'clock Irish or 5 o'clock Eastern. So we've got more time to digest that over the course of the week as to what it means for Atlanta. It's what's happening in Miami, I think, is more interesting, Craig, because the morning started, obviously, they were starting to clean house. They made the decision on Tua. They also traded Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's gone from the Dolphins to the Jets, and they made a decision pretty early in the day, it must be said. I think this is a morning time in America deal that Malik Willis become the new quarterback there. And considering that the new general manager is coming down from Green Bay, the new head coach is coming down from Green Bay, and now Malik Willis, who was one of the more highly touted prospects coming into this free agency period, especially at the quarterback position, we saw that he did a more than serviceable job as a backup in Green Bay last year. There's a sense that he had earned his place to be a starter. Miami is that place. So I'm just wondering, your sense of this as a move for Miami, is becoming almost too much like trying to stick with the identity of the people that they've already hired in the front office by picking this quarterback pick, or is it just generally enough talent in Malik Willis to make Miami a more interesting team to look at when we're looking ahead towards an AFC East division, which, let's be fair, but it's going to be difficult to win with both the Buffalo Bills and New England Patriots to compete against?
Yeah, the Dolphins, it strikes me as a weird one because, again, this is one that just kind of made sense and everything pointed towards it happening. But I don't really know what they're getting with Malik Willis. We see little bits of him, and obviously we didn't see the great side of him at Tennessee, where that kind of went a bit south. We saw little snippets of him at the Packers, but we haven't seen anything too extended. Like, are you bringing in a quarterback here who is going to go through those almost rookie-esque growing pains? And are you patient enough to be able to do that? Now, you could probably say yes because of the fact that they do have that new head coach, new front office, so they are going to be kind of building it away. But I just don't see how it helps in the here and now. I understand why they moved away from Tua. They've obviously given Malik Willis a big deal. I mean, 67.5 million contract, 45 million of it guaranteed. So you always knew that his numbers were going to be inflated by the fact that he was I don't want to say best of a bad bunch of quarterbacks, but it was slim pickings on the whole free agency area for quarterbacks, and they were never going to get near any of the ones in the draft as well. And we know how slim it is there. So it's kind of you take what you can get. But whether they overpaid because of the fact that he was the only one available there for them is another question. I don't know. This seems to kind of be more of a stagnated move, and I'm maybe not as excited as some others are on this one.
Yeah, that's a good one, Kieran, because I look at this and I thought, okay, Miami are obviously deciding that this draft class is not good enough for him to even attempt to try and find the future, to try to find a rebuild, whether they're looking ahead toward 2 or 3 years down the line in draft class, or whether they actually genuinely believe that there's something to build on here. It's a decent amount of cash they're spending, considering they already have to chew a lot of money on Tua, on another fresh quarterback for him to work with. Bobby Sloga's in there as offensive coordinator, having been passing game coordinator previously in that setup. So it's not like, it's not like there's a complete fresh offensive rebuild going on here. They've just decided that Tua wasn't it, and they needed to find something else here. Is this an inspiring decision from Miami, do you think?
Well, I think, towards the end of the season, December into January, into the playoffs, Willis was I don't want to say the hot commodity, but like Craig said, he was the best of a bad bunch almost. And I still think the sample size is too small. I really do. He impressed when he played. He only started one game. He had 4 games in 25, but he started one. 30. It's the completion. It's a 30 of 35 passes that is probably, kind of shone for the Dolphins. 422 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the other thing that was 0 picks when he was playing. So it's very small sample size. They're probably hoping, with their mathematicians and statisticians, that they're projecting it to 26 and seeing what those figures will spout out. So it's a good deal for the Dolphins. Again, you look at some of the money. 67.5 for a guy that's barely proven himself in the league, bounced around a little bit, but we saw what happened with Richardson coming out of Florida, small sample size. He didn't work out. I've probably got more faith in Willis, but still, it's a risky move. But with Miami, like I said, they had to get rid of Tua. There was no two ways about it. No Tua.
You've done it again. You've done it again. That's 2 times he's done it now.
But decent move for the Dolphins. It'll excite the fans because he is dynamic. We saw what he could do. But again, the question is that sample size too small, and can it project for a complete season? Because everyone looks good in a couple of games and a couple of scenarios. Can he go to Kansas City in the snow in December and put on a performance?
Yeah, a few people in Miami have been able to undertake that task. Ciaran, I'm going to stay with you with the breaking news as we're recording. Gardner Minshew is signing a deal with the Cardinals, a 1-year, $5.7 million deal. Expensive backup, or is it actual QB1 battle we can expect in Arizona next year?
Ooh, man, Gardner Minshew. Oh, God, I remember, what was it, 2019? I went over to the Jags facility, and Minshew was there signing random things, and I'm just reminded that it was a long time ago. Yeah, that stash, that whole kind of shtick that came out. He's been in the league. Listen, he was a great quarterback in college. He's still around. He's still making a living. He's just a career backup at this stage. I don't think there's any there's any question about that.
Yeah, no. Pro Bowler in 2023, people forget, but just the nature. Like, I saw him play in Kansas City. I'm like, it's just, I feel like he's not at the sort of game control level of his year there. So anyway, but that's we'll move on from that to what is actually happening in Kansas City. I guess the two big chunks of news to get in here. Firstly, Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, a pretty significant season for the Seahawks as part of a two-pronged running attack, must be said, in Seattle. Seattle are now just left with Zach Charbonnet. I'm sure they will be finding ways to pick up the pieces there. But he is being transplanted into the Kansas City Chiefs. What I find interesting about this, Craig, is the Kansas City running game has actually been quite important to their sort of dynasty years and dynasty level success, but it's never been top of the charts because it's what Mahomes can do. Is trying to make the most out of whatever it was, the Legion of Zoom at the start and whatever other wide receiver core was happening here. I think Walker really brings a very different style of play than Pacheco has given over the last couple of years. And I think that if used correctly, it'd be interesting to see what way Andy Reid might actually deploy him as opposed to the way that he was deployed in Seattle, which, as we saw this year, was tremendously effective. They won the Super Bowl. He was the leading man and managed to take a lot of pressure off Sam Darnold, so that Sam Darnold was able to be serviceable plus, if you know what I mean. If that and ended up running games where he managed to keep pushing forward to them being the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, you get to play with a Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes, who, let's be fair, we still don't know what his position and his fitness is going to be like at the first part of the year. A lot of work might actually fall on Kenneth Walker here, and I definitely think that they are looking at that reality of Mahomes' injury and the future of Kelsey, which seems uncertain going today, and saying the run game actually might be the best place for us to invest in here. And they've gotten probably the top free agency running back there was to get.
Yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of teams interested in it. I think the price might be slightly high, but when you are the Chiefs, you can kind of push that up a little bit and find ways of doing it. Patrick Mahomes has proven in previous years that he's quite happy to maneuver his cap hit and the money that he gets in order to help the team, and they've done that again and again. I think Kenneth Walker could be the missing piece for the Chiefs. I do think that they still have a few question marks at wide receiver. Obviously, bringing Kelsey back is going to help the receiving game, but as we saw last year, he is on the slowdown. So this was really an area of need for them to stop being a little bit one-dimensional and relying on Mahomes to do his scramble and hero ball, I guess we call it, in the terms of what he does. And we do see it across the league with some of the bigger quarterbacks in the terms of what they can do. Just look at Caleb Williams and what he does. But Kenneth Walker is a phenomenal running back, somebody who's really going to add something to this Chiefs team. The overpay is probably worth it if it gets them back to the big dance, and that's what they want to do. They want to make sure that they get there and they don't stagnate. I think when we were in San Francisco, our own Kieran O'Donovan turned around and was it Kieran or was it yourself, Shane, who said that? No, it was Kieran who said his hot take was that Mahomes never makes it back to a Super Bowl. And this is
not only was that Kieran, I argued against him. I thought that was ridiculous. He said that in a taxi in San Francisco as well. I nearly threw him out the window. I'm like, hey, how can you think that? Seriously, how can you think that? But he probably
he did say
right in the fullness of time. But yeah, that was very much a cod take.
It was, wasn't it? But this is the kind of move that they can make to make sure that they are within a shout. You're picking up the Super Bowl MVP. We can argue that maybe there were better candidates on a special team level, but they're not going to quite get the same hype level that he would get. And, over 1,000 yards rushing, he had five touchdowns. But like you said, he was part of a multi-back system. And when you got into the crunch time, which was the playoffs, when they lost Charbonnet, he stepped up to the plate and did exactly what he needed to do.
As we're recording, Tom Pelissero just posted 12 seconds ago that Travis Kelce have agreed to a deal with Kansas City. On the list, we said the rumors were today that he looked likely to remain in Kansas City for 14th season. He is age 36. And there was a sense that he might stay in the league, but might actually try his luck elsewhere or want to go somewhere else for the end of his career. Not saying that this will be the last season, but it's probably getting pretty close, Kieran. But Kelce's still staying in that Chiefs setup. I'm not quite saying going for a last dance, but I mean, just to the point earlier when I was sort of laughing at Kieran O'Donovan, I understand that, dynasties don't stay at the top for long. The Patriots were very much an exception to what is normally a rule, where you see the Steelers, the Cowboys, the 49ers beforehand. But I just think that even without Andy Reid, there's a lot of great pieces there for them to keep moving forward. And the fact that Kelsey is still in the system this year, they could do with some better wide receivers to try and be a bit more explosive. That running game will be more explosive with Kenneth Walker in it. But I definitely think Kelsey staying in Kansas City is good news for Chiefs fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's still got it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He still has an ability to bust open. You know, I say all the time, you know, Kelsey is wide open. How is he always wide open? He just has this incredible knack. I mean, he could be 40 playing in the league and still find himself with 4 yards of space. He's still a great athlete. He's still obviously got the motivation to keep going. Him and Mahomes will go down in the annals of history as a great duo, as one of the top duos in the history of football. You know, notwithstanding all the Super Bowls they won, but the guy loves football. He loves ball, and he just wants to continue playing. You know, he gets a lot of slack and a lot of brushback with the Taylor Swift stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, the guy loves ball. He's a baller. He goes out there. He gives everything he has. You can see how competitive and how emotional he gets during games. And just to go back onto the Walker point real quick. I mean, I think Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, we're not gonna do it for any team in the NFL at this stage. I think Pacheco, I mean, he'll probably find some work with the Chiefs and probably somewhere else. But he's a kind of just short term. He's the kind of player who will burn out in like 2 to 3 years because he puts his body on the line all the time. Walker's a much more, I don't want to say cerebral because he's he's an intelligent player, but those 4 touchdowns in the playoffs is a big factor what the Chiefs are looking at, because that's where they're looking to go back to. So I know they got the Chiefs lost a couple of corners today, but they've definitely got an eye on the draft, which is very, very heavy with corners, edges, linebackers. So they're probably okay with that. Not getting into retool territory, but they're definitely looking to get back into that AFC West.
I'm going to throw this one at you. Just some breaking news from the New York Giants. They are re-signing right tackle Jermaine Elamuna for a 3-year, $39 million deal. Jermaine, of course, born in London, so I guess that keeps some sort of international aspect in this. Are you happy with this news?
Very, yeah. He was a much-needed piece. I mean, at this stage, if we can keep Thomas at the left and Illuminor on the right, and work around the interior lineman with what we got, and maybe a trade or maybe some draft picks. But he was a crucial piece. They had to make that deal. I mean, you got to keep 6. You got to keep him upright. So I like the move. Good dude. When me and Brian were at the Giants game against the Eagles, we were in the locker room, and I remember Brian was having a little bit of a chat with him after the game. So friend of the show, good dude, and definitely a deal that the Giants needed to make. And I'm glad they did.
Yeah, I can only echo those sentiments. I had the privilege of talking to Jermaine a couple of years ago after a tough loss against the Ravens in MetLife. And just like you say, just like the soundest dude, like backs himself to the hilt for obvious reasons. At the time, he was actually playing left tackle because Thomas was out. And I made a joke saying that Thomas might be under threat because he was playing that well at left tackle. And at right tackle, he says he's the best in the league. And you could probably argue that he is. And now we've just signed him to a 3-year deal that is 14th most against in right tackles. So he's not even getting top 10 right tackle money. And he thinks he is at the level that is number 1. And it's hard to argue that he's not.
I'm telling you, I like these Giants. The more I hear about them, the more I hear about the way that this season's been put together. Why am I getting hope for the Giants? It's ridiculous. I shouldn't be. I'm hanging out with you guys too much.
Look, I was hyping for the Patriots. Look at me last year with the Patriots. I was hyping them all year, and they ended up going to the Super Bowl. Get on the train.
You're right about that. I think there's a very similar situation, with the Patriots last year, what the Giants got going this year. So now, look, good news. Obviously, you laid out that sort of, even as the economics of it there, Craig, the fact that you reckon he's a top tier talent and he's obviously in the building. You can keep some sort of culture building there, but he's getting paid the 14th highest, and that's kind of where you want to be hitting. That's some good business from New York. Just on the Arizona point we were referring to earlier, the news from Arizona from John Gambadoro, who is a sports radio talk show in Arizona, is that Jacoby Brissett is staying in Arizona, and Arizona intend on giving him the number 1 spot. So they're not even looking for anybody else in that. So that's interesting. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Cardinals over the course of the season. Let's talk about some of the bigger news that came out today. Before we go to a break and talk about Mike Evans, I want to talk about the trade. What's going on in Indianapolis. Pittman has been traded from Indy to Pittsburgh. I think it's an interesting move, Craig, for the Steelers here. I don't know how much we were expecting trades to happen today, as opposed to I suppose it was free agency, but just by the fact that just to bring people behind the scenes, Craig has done a mountain of graphics preparing for about, I'd say, quite literally 2,000 different scenarios of different players and different teams and everything. It's a monstrous amount of work. Like, when you see this thing, you can only assume it was AI that did it, but no, it wasn't AI. It was Craig Rigden, as we are now anointed him. He is firmly one of our own. But it does. It turns of this trade, Craig. Is this something that you like from Pittsburgh? A team that we're still actually not quite sure what they're doing with their quarterback situation, but Jeff are trying to make sure to have weapons available. And Pittman, of course, is still fresh enough in the league. He can still become molded in any sort of system that a team needs to. I think it's an interesting decision from Pittsburgh here.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a look at what the Pittsburgh Steelers had last year, DK Metcalf obviously came in on the trade and didn't exactly set the world alight. I mean, 892 yards, 6 touchdowns is great. You then drop down to Calvin Austin with 380 yards of offense on the receiving side of things from a wide receiver, Kenneth Gainwell and Pat Frymuth, both above him. It just wasn't great all round from the Steelers in that passing attack last year. It was very one-dimensional. It was very much a case of look for DK Metcalf. Metcalf goes down injured. They struggle. Obviously, there's still the up and down situation with what the hell is going to go on with Aaron Rodgers and whether he does return or whether they have to look elsewhere. With what happened with Alec Pierce, obviously he got re-signed. It meant that they were going to need to probably move on Pittman, whether he was going to get upset and start throwing his toys out the pram in the terms of his target share going forward is one thing, but also the money side of things as well. It made sense for them to cut ties there. Pittman got 784 yards last year, 7 touchdowns. So, not far off what DK was getting. It gives them another good option there. He will probably come in as that number 2 receiving option. And I like the move. I do. I don't think that they overpaid for it. I think it was a late round pick swap because of the cap hit that Pittman brings. So I think both teams can be quite happy with this one and will probably both benefit from it in the long run.
I'll throw that one to you, Ciaran, but it's by also the saying that we were talking about obviously Gainwell being in Pittsburgh. He's now gone to Tampa Bay as well. That was some news that came out there today. So a decent bit of change in a lot of those teams. There's sort of a bit of crossover going on there as well.
Yeah, then the Steelers had to do something on offense. I mean, there was some tough watches last year. Like Craig said, it was DK or nothing, and it was hard to watch. I mean, we saw a lot of games where it was just Boswell, a defensive pick, and it's a 15-12 game. So good move for the Steelers. Pittman, people forget he had a really good start, but what people forget is he tailed off probably about week 10, week 11. I remember when I saw him against the Jags in, I think that was week 14 in December, week 13. Non-factor, Jags just shut him down. And I think that the season kind of tailed off for him productive-wise. After that, I think it was once Thanksgiving came in December, kind of fell off a shelf. He wasn't overly happy with his role there. So it's a good move for him. And like I said, Steelers need, whatever weapons the Steelers can get on offense right now is just a plus because they've got to change the culture and the dynamic there because, you can't go through with Boswell kicking 5 field goals, TJ Watt, grabbing a pick and then you running it in from 2 yards. So switch it up, Steelers. Come on now.
It's the Pittsburgh way, but the Pittsburgh way might have to change. And Mike Tomlin has decided to, I don't know, presumably go to Fox. I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Right, we're going to take a quick 30-second break. When we come back, we'll talk about the fact that Mike Evans is no longer a Tampa Bay Buccaneer.